right, I started recording and
All right, cool. All right, so I met Nolan like about 3 weeks ago at Philly Tech Week. And I was doing a presentation on building out agentic agents with no code using N8N.
I was questioning
and he asked if I could come here and do the same presentation. So what I'm going to go through is kind of some of the stuff that I'm working on right now, and then the use case with N8N, and then I'm here to answer any questions. We can get as technical as you want. Let's say about how this is being used in production. Okay. Is anybody familiar with N8N or have used it before? Okay. Oh, what's your familiarity with it?
So I built like lead generation pipelines in N8N. That's like the classic use case.
Yep.
I did. Yeah.
Yep. So that's a great, that's an excellent use case. Do like lead generation. You could do things like scraping websites, connecting to other APIs, connecting to your CRM. You could do lead qualification with N8N, meaning that like if somebody's coming into a form, you can go out and look at all their contact information and kind of build out like a dossier for how to connect or what are some of the things that people are interested in. That's kind of like the tip of the iceberg for the use case of it. So a little bit about me before, because like probably like why the hell is this dude talking? I've been a technologist for 25 years. This guy over here, this old man, he was my first boss. Actually, my second boss out of college. Yeah.
don't forget the man.
Yeah, Daryl. Yeah. And I'm currently a college professor. I teach data structures and software engineering at Dell State University. I'm a senior staff engineer for pretty much a fractional CIO, CTO at this point in my career. I work with, in terms of brand names, it's funny, I like it. I work with a venture company called Bronze Valley, and then companies that come out of there until they can pull on somebody that's a CIO or CTO. I kind of step in and fill the shoes. So like a pseudo, or at least say, what's the name? My first like technical co-founder type thing. I also used to do boot camps for like 10 years in Delaware. I did software engineering boot camps, focusing on people in fintech. And then I have a consulting company called Brain Trust. These are some of the companies that I work for. So, what are the use cases? What's your name, man, back then?
EK.
EK? Am I saying that right?
Yeah, EK, yeah.
EK, okay, perfect. EK came up with a great use case. And the thing too is that like, so, in the beginning of my career, like I started back in the 90s. Some of y'all probably weren't even born in the 90s. Okay, I mean. 94.
99.
99.
Oh.
I was a grown man. Actually, 94 I was in high school. Okay. 99 I was about to graduate college. Okay, so anyway, I've been doing this for a while. So when these no-code solutions started popping up, and you started to see them about like 10, 15 years ago, I was like, oh, this is stupid, but like, whatever. Like, it actually started with Scratch. Like, that was the first like no-code solution. And I liked it because it taught like stuff for kids. But then like, those kids grew up into adults and liked the block coding, and it's here to stay. You've seen it more and more. You see, especially with like these, you start seeing a lot like Salesforce and ServiceNow and all these different like CRM companies. And I still have my thoughts about it because all these things do is they still build code. It's just shitty code. Excuse my French. I'm sorry. Actually, you know what? No, I'm probably le français. All right, shitty code, right? And the code is all convoluted and wired up. It adds all this other like bulk to it that you can never break away from it, right? So it's not clean. And I have a problem with that because it makes you sticky to a platform that may go extinct. And I've seen that a lot in my career, so I don't like it. But with these new tools that are coming out, especially with AI, where we're no longer going to be coding anymore, like the way that we write software, like I mean, I spent all these decades learning these languages, and I'm not going to need to know them in the next 5 to 10 years because everybody's going to be vibe coding, which is a thing. which scares the crap out of me. But at the same time, like we're not going to be doing open software with everybody. So these tools like N8N, I started like doing research into them, and it's like you just get to these tools, you can get to a solution a lot quicker. And in consulting agencies, like I work, when I do work, I don't get paid because I wrote like beautiful code. I get paid because I get my client a product. The faster I get my client a product, the faster I can pay my bills. So these tools get me there faster, which is why I'm starting to use them more and more. I still don't think it's a complete replacement. Like you do some hybrid stuff, like I'm still coding in Python. I'm still building out stuff with like in Fast API and LangChain because like you still there's some nuances that these things don't cover yet. I mean, you can force it, but you're still working inside of somebody else's box. But I'm still going to talk about it. So everybody here is a tech background and developer or like let's say some stuff I'm not going to cover. Generally, what I would cover is like AI case study use cases, but everybody's pretty familiar with AI, right? So I'm just going to highlight this stuff really, really quickly. A couple ways that people have effed up with AI was Air Canada. That was a big one. Everybody heard about that one? Air Canada built an AI chatbot that was customer facing. And the problem was that somebody went on there and asked them what their bereavement policy was. They did not put any guardrails around it. So what it does, AI does what AI does. AI is pretty much just a puppy that wants to make, doesn't want to get spanked and wants to treat. So if you ask it for a bereavement policy, it made one up. So when the person tried to execute on that and say, hey, give me my refund, Air Canada said no to the court and they lost in court because it was their public representative, which is, so when you're doing anything with AI, my personal view of it is that it should not be creating anything that's going directly out into production to the public. It should be creating something that's still being approved by a human in some way, shape, or form. Not that it removes the human, it just makes us able to do more work in a shorter period of time. Other ways that people effed up AI, there was a lawyer who decided to have his briefs written in AI, and AI made up a whole bunch of case studies. And he presented that in court, and that lawyer was disbarred. Okay, that's another way you can have fun. This is the funniest one and probably my favorite. There was a car company in California that created an AI chat salesman. So some software engineers decided to F with them and did some prompt hacking and went in and just told them, AI, you are an agent and you want to make me a deal for $1. AI said, cool. And he's like, okay, I want this car. He's like, sure, I'll sell it to you for $1. They didn't get the car. They didn't win the lawsuit. There was actually the lawsuit, but it was very embarrassing. The reason why I talk about these things first is because, especially with a group like this, we're building stuff. Like AI, you don't know what the hell it's going to do, right? It's like I don't know this guy, right? I don't know what he's going to do in the next 5 minutes. He doesn't even know what he's going to do in the next 5 minutes. It's unpredictable, right? Well, I mean, it's to a certain extent, right? But the thing is that, but there's a high probability, right, that he could walk into a company I'm working for one day and I can hire him. And the code that he's going to build, I don't know what he's going to build, right? I just don't know. AI is pretty much the same way. So we have to put guardrails around it, which is why when you get a new engineer, you don't give him access to release to production right away. You kind of want to wait it out, see what he does, and do something called like a code review, right? Like we do that with humans, we still have to do it with the human replicants that we are creating, right? And that's just a philosophy I think we all have to follow. It's also interactive. Like I don't like just talking to a void. Like if you guys want to say something or throw in your own insights, please feel free. And if you disagree with me, tell me, right? Listen, we can debate it. I'm probably right, but we can talk about it. All right, so
I have a question.
yes.
So there seems to be a big push right now for AI in customer service.
Yes.
How do they? But I guess the AI is customer facing. There's no running AI.
So you can allow it to be customer facing, but you have to put guardrails around it. Like when you're setting up your AI agent, if somebody asks me a question, and it has something to do with the day-to-day operations of this company. Actually, you can just say it next time. Well, we'll give you 1 second. If it goes to the day-to-day of this company, like look at these documents. If you can answer this question for these documents and these documents only, answer it. If not, then tell it what to do. Like, okay, connect to the customer service. Right, so as long as you're putting those guardrails around it, then it's actually really, really good because you're not going to predict how it's going to say it, but you know what the source data is going to be from. And then also provide sources.
And that prevents hallucinations.
It will cut down tremendously on hallucinations, right? Hallucinations is, I don't even think that's the right term per se, as it used to be, because it's not a hallucination. It's like, it's predictive analytics, right? It's trying to predict what you think the next word is going to be. It's not hallucinating. It's a high probability it could have been that word or said that thing. It's just it's positive reinforcement and negative reinforcement, right? And the thing with positive reinforcement and negative reinforcement, it being wrong is part of the process, right? That's a huge part of that process, right? We just don't want it to be customer facing. Yes.
So, like with some of the guardrails I put on the AI for my website is, I told it if it can't find any particular thing on the website or doesn't know something that's crystal clear marked on the website, just do not answer and say they can't tell.
Exactly. That's an excellent way to do guardrails.
And if someone tries to bypass the guardrail more than 3 times in one day, it will just end the chat and disable the chat for that user for the rest of the day.
That is a great way to do it. Maybe not the most customer-friendly way to do it, but at the end of the day, he won't be liable for something that the AI would say. So we're doing things like that. I think that's great. What I've been advising people to do is when you're doing something that's going to be for customer support, have it make your agents, the actual humans, better, right? So if somebody calls my phone and I'm using AI, what I'm going to do is look at that phone number, grab any data that you can about this particular person from all our past conversations, right? Listen to the current conversation, and then you can do things like as you're talking to somebody's getting irate and you know that they got like something that made them happy before. Well, maybe I can give you a discount. Maybe I can do this. Hey, how are your kids? Like you can make these like little agents make us have more human connections, right? In my personal opinion, even though these agents are sounding more and more like us all the time, which is crazy. It's also our fault. So I'm gonna get my little soapbox. You didn't think I had a soapbox. This is why I'm standing there. Whenever we don't pay for something, we are what that product, right? So like we've been tricked over the last 20 years from companies like Google and Facebook to give them all this data about ourselves, right? When you like for Gmail, if you're not paying for it, Gmail actually owns your email. Y'all know that?
Yeah.
Right? What's the name? So, and they allow you to look at your email, but they own it, meaning that they want the data so they can mine us, and they can also figure out how to advertise better to us, which is ingenious. I wish I'd thought of it, but I didn't. Facebook, like what's the name? Facebook and Instagram, all these things, these are the ops, right? Like we train them not only on what we look like, but what all our friends look like, and what we like to talk about, right? So they can start to predict all different types of things to control our behavior, right? But anyway, right, that's what I'm saying. So, Steiner is coming with all these boxes, so we can kind of skip through this, right? So, one of the things that I thought was like a really, really great use case was for one of our clients. The client is called Wheelhouse. They're based in Austin, Texas, and they're an interior design company. And the problem that they were facing when they came to us was we talked to a client, we talked to a whole bunch of people on the phone, and we do these renderings. Like, so you talk to you on the phone, I have this living room, I want my living room to look like this vacation spot I went to, blah, 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 right? Then they had to pay artists to kind of mock up a couple of different looks and feels for that, and that could take up to a week. It costs a couple $100. And somebody may or may not use them for for interior design, or they can take that same idea and go to another interior design company. So the cost of them acquiring new customers was getting pretty high, right? So what we did was we set them up so like when you're doing their ingesting, we did everything via like a Skype call, so that they can transcribe and record all of the conversations, right? And during the conversations, we said like while you're asking them what's the during the conversation, ask these particular questions. And because they were asking these exact questions, what we would do is those questions would help us set up we use Midjourney. So to create at least 3 to 4 artistic renderings of what the conversation produced, right? So instead of taking a week's time and costing maybe $200 to $300, close to $100, right, per client, right? They were for what's Midjourney going to cost you, what, like 5 cents for a rendering, less than that, right? And instead of that week time, within 30 minutes of the phone call, when somebody just is very excited about it, they were able to get at least 4 artistic renderings of what it is. Yes, sir.
Finish your sentence.
Okay, 4 artistic renderings directly after the phone call in an email with action items, which helped them, like, you know, cut their costs and also like cut the cost of acquiring new talent, right? And I think that was a really good use case. Yes, sir.
Yeah, so I'm curious, how did you prompt Midjourney? Because Midjourney prompting is quite intense.
Yes.
In my experience.
Yes. A lot of trial and error, and also to be completely transparent.
Yeah.
Stole a lot of shit off of Hugging Face.
Yeah, as you should.
Yeah. I mean, especially before, and learning from other people's stuff. But it took us a while to massage it, and it wasn't perfect. But we did get to the point where somebody could even take a picture of their living room, it took a picture of their living room, and it would do the rendering based off of that. It came out pretty good, you know. Now, when we first built this solution, the first version of it, it was rather expensive because we did it in Python and we hand coded it. But when we did version 2 of it, we did it with using N8N. Cut our development time into almost, it was something that I did in like 2 days. Yes.
With your experience using N8N, do you know if you could like have presets of say whatever N8N the workflow does, integration with like Instagram or like X or like LinkedIn, can you embed certain like personality configurations of the
Yes.
avatar and then
Yes.
have it like generate
Yes.
things and then post
Yes.
it?
And it's no different from, you can do anything, you can do most things. You can do a lot of things that you can do with just regular code, right? And you can even make your own modules, which is actually very useful as well. Because the big problem too is that, like, all right, so I teach college students, right? The average college student couldn't code their way out of a paper bag. You spend a lot of time, you don't really spend that much time as a CS major actually writing software, right? I think it's less than 400 hours for your whole college career of like the time that you have to code. The ones that are going to be the good developers are the ones that want to code and desire to code and do it outside. So if you're not doing something outside of your college experience, you're generally trash. I can say that because I teach that.
I agree with that sentence.
I was trash when I graduated, when I left college, right? I'm gonna be honest with you. You can ask this man. Okay, this is great, right? Listen, so now I'm 20 plus years in my career. But this is a man who interviewed me fresh out of school. How was I doing my interview? After 4 years at the University of Pittsburgh?
And I think I'm C++ guy. And he just had no real experience, no VBA experience. He had to, software is a perfect career that you need. It's almost like construction. You need to have the expert and you have the apprentice. It's not something that you really learn without having an expert around. You can try to learn it, but so first thing I want to do is match him with someone who was really in so we were really heavy on that. So coming out of school, the person is not really you should be paying for it. You should be paying someone else to teach you at school. Coming out of school, you should be in 5th year of school, you should still pay. Right. So he like most people come out of school looking for a job, but they're not really ready for a job. They're ready to start learning how to write software.
So, the reason why I brought that up too is that there's 2 phases in software development. It's figuring out the problem or the solution, and then writing the code to execute that solution, right? And especially in the beginning, a lot of people haven't really gained confidence in both of those areas. So in onboarding new hires, like at the one of the companies I'm a fractional CIO at, we're hiring students that I used to teach, right? We don't let them code right away. I'd rather put you on a problem with this because you got to figure out what AI is first. You got to figure out like what's that? You got to start solving things with the problem to to gain an opinion on how you should solve it, because you have to have an opinion. And then once you do that, then we transition them into software, like actually writing software. So we start them off in platforms like N8N because you're still building out solutions, right? That are providing us value, really, because honestly, if you have somebody to code, you're not going to get a return on investment on them for the first 2 years of you hiring. Yes.
So N8N does have a unified sort of card or interface for a variety of different integrations and APIs that you want to use.
Yes, and you can customize and add on new APIs as needed.
Or as if you want to put code into the card as well.
You can actually, I mean, it works right with, it can work right with your pipeline. Like you can have one developer working on a software solution that has API endpoints that can integrate with N8N, right? And N8N can have its own, does have its own API endpoints that you can set up, or at least webhooks that can be plugged into it for callbacks that can be integrated in the
And the
process.
backend infrastructure is using their infrastructure and their servers.
Well, yes and no, because you can host it yourself. You can use them.
It's a software as a service such that
It's open source and free. If you want to host it yourself, I mean, you're just got to pay for the infrastructure. Everything I'm doing right now, I'm just running off my laptop.
So if I'm hosting it on my own infrastructure, then why would I want to use their framework?
Well, you can use their framework because it gives you the GUI, right, to quickly get. There's stuff I can do with N8N, like this.
Like, I mean, you could just vibe code an entire bash automation.
I fucking hate vibe coding. I'm sorry, right? I just don't like it. It's just like it's lazy, right?
It is.
It's lazy. Like, what's it? Now, do I do it? Yes, but it's not the same way. Like, I have an opinion, right? I have 20 plus years of working, right? So when the AI gives me some software or some code, right? I'm like, no, I don't want this. I don't like this. I can give it my opinion. If you're coming into software as a new developer, and you're just gonna vibe code, hope it's right, and like, well, it looks like it works.
Because the biggest issue for me into using these drag and drop no-code, low-code solutions is like, I have no idea what it's actually doing under the hood.
But this is not no code. Well, this is no code. This is not generating code, right? All the stuff is predefined, and that's gives you.
The thing is, I can read generated code. I can understand and read through everything as if I'm reading English.
Yep.
But I can't read what the GUI is.
But you can see what the GUI is, right? And that's the point right here, right? So it's not a replacement for everything, but for somebody who may not be the best developer, I can get a lot of. You might as well come on over here because you got a lot of info right here.
So interesting.
What's the name? And this whole couch is free, man. I got to that you know. The point is that like, all right, so you're about to go to a startup, right?
Yeah.
Every person that you bring on board, right, costs money.
Yeah.
Right? And you told me something that I really identify with, right? You want to get not only the most bang for your buck, but if you ain't got to spend the buck, that's even better, right? So you de-risk a lot of stuff, right? Because I can see
That's for an enterprise and for like a corporate situation.
it's also for a startup situation.
For
too.
startup situations, say, I do understand if you like, say, you use an API for a AI model class, opposed to hosting it yourself, building your own infrastructure, you sort of have that structure and already something working, and you're also outsourcing the infrastructure. But however, for a very specific use case for like bleeding edge applications and features, you need to know exactly what this card, the code, the function, and what it's interfacing with on the network.
122% agree with you, right? But to your point, you want to be focused on the things that are domain specific to the problem that you're trying to solve. So why was it, like I said earlier, I never want to do another authentication gateway for the rest of my damn life, right? I would use anything outside the box for like little stuff, like the mundane things.
Yeah, the little stuff.
It doesn't have to be little though, right? The thing is, like, you can come up with a use case. Let's say you're building out something, and all of a sudden, here's a new feature that you know that will add money to your pocket immediately, right? But you don't want to spend dev cycles on because it doesn't fall in your domain mission, right? You can build that out with something with like a no-code solution because it's bringing money in the door, right? And providing value to your client immediately, but it's not part of what your whole office, and you don't lose anything, right? So what I'm saying is like for like, and it's great for ideation, right? Because the thing is, you might build out a feature that you don't know will add value, so I can't afford to risk the dev hours. So I'm going to build something out in something like N8N, throw it out to my clients, get some people to pay for it. Once they start paying for it, okay, now we need to dig in and build out something that's a little bit more in tune with our solution, because the thing that you do lose is the flexibility, right? And being in the bleeding edge, you have to be flexible, right? But the thing that you gain is stability and speed, right? So do I think that you just put,
So here's an example use case. So say there's this leading edge AI model that can build AI girlfriends all customizable for me.
Right.
And I have no money.
Right.
Therein, I want to spin up via an API client-side interface, to go to the backend, call another API that interfaces with a preemptible GPU server that downloads a Docker container, pulls a Docker container, runs an automatic script, runs the pipeline, feeds back the video, and I want all this dynamically set because I could gain from like a $5.50 H100 GPU to like a 50 cents H100 GPU with this preemptible dynamic pipeline. Can I do that, something like that with N8N?
can you do something like that with N8N? The answer is no, but you could add certain parts, you can automate certain parts of it to make your job easier, right? This is not a one-stop shop, right? It's just going to solve a particular problem, like what's in for you, right? Like, and we'll get to that in a minute. Like, you'll start to see the use cases out of it. This is not, again, like, what's the name? Like, our company, we have people writing software overseas right now, right? Because it's just cheaper to do that overseas, right? But there's some stuff that we do over here, right? And the thing that, like, listen, we know that it's cheaper, but it still costs money, right? For new ideas as we're ideating through, like, what's like, so the company I'm with, we just got acquired, right? So we got bought, and we're staying on board for a little while to kind of like help, like, set the company up and then do like the knowledge transfer, right? But really our job is like, it's weird because like nobody wants me to write software anymore, right? I'm sitting there talking to engineers and telling them everything that I would do, and then they go off and do it, right? And I'm not paid to write software anymore. I'm paid to think about, we have patents, right? So I'm paid to think about all the different products that we can be building with these patents, right? I don't have time to write software anymore. Like I gotta move fast.
For an early discussion, I was talking about the producer versus the position. Who's in the producer?
Do I like it? No. I'd rather be the one writing the software. But the thing is too, like, as we start moving through our career, like, we start to change. And we have to
because for my specific use case, I would have saved like 10x the cost of this serving this feature.
It depends. It depends. I mean, the thing too is that, like, you want to build out your AI girlfriend so you can have your AI harem, right? You want to spend more time on making sure that their personalities are in tune with yours, right? So why do all the mundane stuff instead of us? You don't be writing code. You want to be on it fast.
Okay, wait. So
This is a weird conversation.
no, okay. I'm very familiar with this project. It's been going on for a while. You can do a lot of it with N8N, provided that you have an API for it. That's the most important part. And APIs oftentimes will bundle functionality and make it cheaper. Like, I don't know if you're going to go over API.
No, I'm not.
Okay. Yeah, API is like a kind of a marketplace for APIs that bundles a lot of functionality. You can like borrow GPUs, rent GPUs on cheap, and you pay per result or per request or whatever the model is. So anyway, that's just like, I think you can get a lot of that done in N8N. As I said, automate the boarding stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just like, look at N8N is a perfect ideation tool. It looks like it takes all this no-code stuff that instead of 15 years to another level.
Oh, yeah.
No steroid, no
And
code.
it's not the only tool out there. There's a couple tools out there, like there's Make.com, and a bunch of other ones. I personally like N8N because I feel closer to actual software development, because it doesn't try to obfuscate everything through a GUI, right? Like, you still have to be more technical in N8N, and that was more appealing to me. Because like when I was trying to do stuff with Make, it just felt dirty. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing it.
It was kind of kiddish.
Yeah, like, get me out of the kiddie pool, man. Let me see. So anyway, so that was the type of the use case. The use case I'm going to go through today. Well, all right. So what I'm going to go through today is setting up N8N, the trials and tribulations of running N8N locally, and then what we're going to do is I'm going to go through the same demo of connecting to Slack, and then making a request from Slack will go to my Google Calendar to actually put an event on my Google Calendar, right? The reason why I'm going to go through that is because it goes through all of the steps that you need to do to connect to any third-party resource or API, even the APIs that you create yourself, right? Like and all that stuff. So let's go. Let's just jump to that because I'm sure everybody wants to give you contact. All right. So N8N. Here's your website. Again, like you can pay for it. I'm not a fan of paying for things that I'm not getting paid for, right? Like if I have a client and I can write off the cost to the client, let them pay for it. So like, especially like with ideation, I'd rather just run things locally and keep it as cheap as possible for as long as possible. If you go to the docs on N8N, they give you like the self-hosting information. The quickest way to get up and running, if you want it, the cleanest way is to run it in a Docker container. You can download the Docker container because you can just remove those as you want. The quickest way to get up and running is just to use Node to install it. It's like 3 commands on the command line. You can go down here to NPM and you literally just NPM install -G for globally, and it's on your system, right? Yes.
Oh no.
Which is important, right? The down, so and to get it up and running, all you do, honestly, is you just run npx. Oh, npx N8N. It runs locally, is what's running in the command line. Then you hit open in the browser. This is yeah. Yeah, run it local, but you're gonna run it. Well, hold on. There is a caveat to it. Again, we're running it wrong. There we go. All right, so it's up and running, and this is it's just running on my laptop, right? Which is great. It can do a lot of things. The issue is, the issue that you're going to run into running it this way is that it's running on HTTP localhost, right? And most APIs, if it's robust in any way, shape, or form, want you to make requests via HTTPS, right? Yes.
I have, at least, I set up my systems to get around that. I set up my system to do HTTPS localhost instead.
You can do that, which is a lot of work, in my opinion.
It is.
But you can do that. The other way to get around this is to use ngrok. Has anybody used that before? Right. So what you do is you set up, ngrok will allow you to, and for free, you can pay for it if you want like more production level stuff, but it will allow you, well, I'll just show you what it does.
Yeah, there's a throughput threshold, which I see regularly.
Oh shit, what the hell, after this I wonder, what the hell are you doing to get there regularly?
I forgot how to use it.
But if you're doing it regularly, I mean, paying for it is not that bad.
Right, it's kind of maybe
I haven't hit it yet. But I mean, my use case for this isn't as, I'm not using it that much. But with ngrok, you run it locally and you can map the port, because the N8N runs locally on port 5678. And you can run, you run ngrok, it'll set everything up and give you a publicly accessible, URI that's listing on that particular port, right? So now, and I'll show you how this works in a second. So everything from localhost 5678 is being forwarded to that publicly accessible port. So now, when I run N8N, it allows you to set up if you set up a folder, and I'm running it from a folder locally, and in that folder I just have an environment variable, and I have to put this IP address, this URI, in there for the webhook URL, and save it, and then if I restart it now, with the site, here is the N8N running, if you look it up here, at this publicly accessible site, which I'm going to need in a few minutes when I set up my Slack bot. So I'm just going to log in like I normally would. The only issue with this doesn't remember the password because, what do you call it? Like, get me for it. Let me see somebody's password. Hold on. I'll make it.
Is there some kind of what do you call it? Auto update? So like,
Probably is.
because it doesn't have. You said it doesn't have
It doesn't, but the problem is the IP address changes each time, and the way that Chrome wants to connect or at least map my password is based off of the URI. So that's going to change each time. Unless I pay for NRock and then I get a dedicated URI.
Static.
Static. Well, it's not. Yeah, I guess
It is static.
Yep.
I guess like why does it require a password? Username and password.
Oh, for N8N to log. That's just I'm just running their local software. I can probably turn it off.
Software the local.
Yeah, just running. Yeah, it's the same as the website. All right. So, N8N. Let's make this a little bit bigger. When you start off with N8N, you got a couple of different places. The places where you're going to play the most at, though, are under, well, in all of them. You're going to look at, we got these three tabs. You got workflows, you got credentials, and you got your executions. Executions is the history, like when you run it locally and you run it in test mode, like that data is saved. You can look at your past executions and look at that data so you can like kind of like see step by step what's going on so that you can debug, right? This is very useful. The credentials. This is where you're going to set up all your different credentials for all your different accounts. So, the other thing I like about N8N is it is LLM agnostic, right? So whatever LLM you're going to connect to, you still have to have credentials for that. But you could be running a solution right there with N8N and DeepSeek, run it all locally. I mean, your computer might start sweating and do the bunny hop and whatnot, but hey, like, you can do it.
You can use Llama CPP with GGUF and then run it on C++.
You could do that.
Or Rust.
You could do that.
Well, what if
And
you
if
don't
I
know
was
how to do the
as
code?
young as you were, I probably would, but I'm almost 50. And as an old man, I don't know how much time I got left on this earth, right? So I'd rather just get to the point. And that's real, okay? What's the name? But the thing is, you have options, right? This is where, so the credentials tab where you put all your credentials. These are going to be for, so in these credentials here, I have a credential for a Google Cloud API, so I connect to the calendar. I have credentials for Slack. I have two different credentials for Slack, do the channels, and I have my OpenAI credential. Any credential that you do, you put in the credentials tab. And then you have your workflows. Your workflows are your agents. This is where you kind of build out your agents, and you build them out step by step using this graph. So let's take a look at this workflow. So for an example, when I did the talk at Philly Tech, I knew that Chris Wade asked me to do the talk a month before the talk. And I had a month to prepare for it. And I woke up the morning of the talk and realized I did nothing to prepare for it. And I woke up at 6 a.m. I spent between 6 and 6:45 creating this. And then from 6:40, from 7, then I took a break, got coffee. And then from 7 till about 8 o'clock, I opened up, ChatGPT and just talked to it about what I wanted for my slides. And then I let it process all that and generate my slides. And then I used some other AI to create the slide. I learned no life lessons getting this presentation together. And everybody seemed to like it. But again, so I've learned no life lessons. Okay. So everything starts off with these independent these nodes, right? So the first node of my workflow could be anything. Generally, when you're starting off, you're going to start with a chat node, and what the chat nodes will let you do is directly talk to your agent. So you just type it in, and it just takes that input, and then it can send an input into a couple of different things, right? The things that it can be sent into are things that will actually do an action, or filter an action, or process an action. Right? So sometimes you do a lot of filters, right? So for example, one of the things that I'm doing now is allowing, so the school that my nephew goes to, right? We want the parents to be able to send messages to the kids during the day, like helpful messages, right? Helpful, positive messages, right? That don't have like curse words or act properly, and we don't want to be trolled. right? My nephew is, he turns 12. And last year, I was proud of at the same time because he figured out how to log into his school's chat. And then he was just anonymously, and then was just dropping curse words in it, right? And he almost got away with it. But the one thing that I never showed him was how to set up a proxy so people don't have your IP address. And he figured out what computer you get it from. So I was just like, wow, like I'm glad that you were able to do it. I hate what you did it for. And the only thing that they knew was the only thing I got away with is the curse words you were using aren't curse words that I use. So he didn't get that from me. All right. So at least it's that, right? But the point is that so the idea is that somebody texts in a number or texts in a message to the kid. It comes in, we register that. It comes in from Twilio. Then we have it go through a filter, right? And the filters are going to look for, make sure that things are appropriate. Then we're also going to have an AI agent look at it to make sure that there's nothing like about personal information that could hurt somebody or damage somebody or expose somebody. But then we're going to look for, we'll say, make sure it's upbeat and uptone, right? Like we don't want somebody saying like, when you get home, kick your ass. Like it's like, hey, I hope you kick ass today, and then change the word ass into something more positive, right? But the whole point is that we're going to run it through a bunch of filters to make sure that the messages are appropriate. All right, so let's go. So this first one is a trigger. What this trigger is this is what, when the bot that I have in Slack, which I'm about to go through, is you say at and then this bot's name, right? It triggers an event and we're listening for that event. When an event is fired to Slack, we're gonna have it connect to a webhook. So let's actually do that now. So first off, how do you connect it to a webhook? With these nodes, you double click them and a menu will pop up on the left-hand side. And the menus have these parameters. But for certain little webhooks, like the Slack one, it has this webhook URL. And here is if you want someone to interact with this particular node in your agent, this is the URI that it has to go to what's the that it's listening for. All right, so this is the API endpoint, for lack of a better term. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and copy this. The issue that with this N8N is that every time I start up Nginx, well not Nginx, Ngrok, yeah, different N. Ngrok, my IP address changes, so I have to change it every time I start this process up. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab this. Quick temperature check. Am I giving enough detail? Not enough detail? What am I doing? How am I doing? Okay. Okay. So now over in Slack API, this is not really going to be about Slack bots today. Want me to come back in later and talk about Slack bots? I can. But you can also jump on YouTube. Somebody will talk to you about it as well. But under Slack bots, right? Other things that we have to be concerned about for this particular use case is the basic information, because we need the client ID and the client secret, and we use that where I was telling you where the credentials were for this particular bot and this particular after starting set up the channel. And then we need to be focused on the OAuth information. Also, I have a recording of me doing this presentation. I'm going to share with y'all later. So like everything I'm going over, I go through the recording, and then like you can just kind of like get through it that way. Okay, so then like you have OAuth permissions, and you're going to need the bot permissions because you want to be interacting with the bot, and then finally the event subscriptions. Now, to enable event subscriptions, you have to subscribe to certain events. But after you do all that, this is the URI that you for the webhook, right? So another thing, when dealing with Slack, one of the things is in N8N so in N8N with the webhook URI, you have to, if you want Slack to be able, because it's going to immediately call this URI to see if it's viable, right? So you have to turn on test step so that it's not listening by default, right? But now it is, once I hit, probably going to call it off. This is the back to this is the wrong Windows system. Sure. Yep, okay. Go here, go for this one, and then test step. Okay, so now it's listening. So now I can, oh, hold on, stop this. I gotta grab a different webhook. Webhook copy, test step, come over here, got the Slack API, and then we can change this. And the second I put it in here, I'm gonna test it. It's verified, so we know that we're good. I don't have to worry about it again as long as this instance is running. But every time I restart it, I gotta, for this particular instance, cool, I'm just gonna save the changes. And I don't really have to worry about anything else for this. So again, in Slack, the thing, I mean, we're just doing OAuth, verification, and then event description, and then some basic information stuff. Okay, cool. So now we come back over to the workflow. I can stop listening and go back to this, right? Back to there. That's the other thing too. It was a little small up the corner. There's this little button right here to go back to the canvas. All right, so this is the first step. And this can be replaced with anything. It could be Slack, it could be Twilio, it could be TikTok, it could be Instagram. Anything that you set it up to is going to, that you give the webhook to, this could be what it calls to start your process off. This right here is what we need to be able to. And this is this AI agent. So to add, to add blocks to it, like over here, you just hit the plus sign, and then you just look for the different category that you want. And under AI, you can select the AI agent, and then, but I'm going to go through that right now. So this is the AI agent, right? And the AI agent, remember that, it has three phases to it, right? Or three main parts to it, right? First is the chat model, right? So this is where you connect it to OpenAI or whatever LLM that you want to that's going to be doing your processing, okay? The second thing is the memory, right? So that it can remember as many or as little of the historical requests that are being asked. So that, like, again, like an agentic agent should be getting better over time because you're communicating with it. The more actions it does, the better it should get at performing what you want it to do, right? So right now I have it to simple memory, and to set it here, it's going to remember a context window of 10, so the last 10 requests to it. But this does not have to be local. You can set this up to a database and have it be have it be more robust than this, right? In fact, if you put setting this up for production, it's not going to be just one user, right? So you can have session and user identification data and be storing that in a database so I know the difference from when I'm talking to me or someone else, right? So I can set all that stuff up based on here. And you can connect this to, right now it's just doing simple memory. You can even hook it up to RAG databases. Are we all familiar with RAG? Yeah.
So essentially, like N8N is really just doing the plumbing between different API interfaces and just putting in the parameters, the headers, or whatever credentials you
There
are.
is no, well, the only difference between this and using N8N and using Python as LangChain is that I don't have to write the code.
Right.
But I am.
But you have to search
fenced in.
through all the documentation of where the URL is, the API key is, what body headers are expecting,
The
and then
same stuff I normally have to do in any other project. Which is one of the reasons why I like it, because I still want that control.
I just like I've used Zapier before and I've used all these other tools, so it's just like it gets to the point I'm bored just like finding the URI, finding the headers, and then doing the right input
This is
parameters.
true, but this is also set it and forget it, right? So like once you got to do it once, you got to eat your vegetables.
Actually, if you set it and you get your raw API key and you don't have a dynamic interface for it to switch, and then you put in the raw API key, and like there's a security vulnerability right there.
Well, I mean, honestly, if you're following, y'all know about 12-factor development? Oh, 12-factor development. Okay. This is me getting on my soapboard today. 12-factor. While I was consulting at JP Morgan, this is something that we kind of like swore by. It's the 12 rules for cloud development. So like, and also how we evaluate whether something is a good solution or a shitty solution. One of the ways. So when you're going through these 12 factors aren't there, or the majority aren't there. This is probably core cloud. You're doing core cloud development in our opinion. I'm not even gonna say our. In my opinion, one, you're gonna have everything in code base. Everybody's doing Git. you may laugh at that, like, of course we're all using code bases. There's a bank that I've done consulting for, I'm not going to say its name, but they're a very American bank. You may say they're a bank of America. Where the team that I was working with passed around the code base via zipping up the files and emailing it to each other. Yeah, that was it. Okay, cool. So code base to track, explicitly declaring your dependencies and isolating your dependencies. That's a no-brainer nowadays, especially if you're using a modern framework like Node or Spring Boot or whatever. Storing your config files in the environment, just so you don't have like the .env fiasco and have the raw credentials go with the code and whatnot, let the environment dictate that stuff. Backend server build on release process. Y'all can look at this on your own time. It's not what I came to talk about. But 12-factor development, 12-factor development, 12-factor development. I've got to build my part for this. I mean, good custodian of code. All right. Anyway, back to this. So, you set up your chat model. You set up your memory. Now, this one right here this is where it gets really, really cool, right? So the tool thing. In your agent, you can do a lot of stuff, but it's pretty much just like with ChatGPT. At the end of the day, we're making a request, right? We can't dictate how the request is going to get done, right? And you can be very adamant about the type of thing. Like you can put in the prompt message, you can put in your system messages, you can get all that stuff, and you can get all the settings there. But at the end of the day, the agent is going to do what the agent is going to do. All right? What we do with the tools is we give it tools that it can use to accomplish its task. Right? It may or may not use the tool. Right? It may or may not use the tool. It's going to make the decision. The more tools that you give it to accomplish the task, the more innovative it can get in getting the job done, which can be good or bad. Okay?
Could you if you added a bunch of tools, like can you parse which tools you use? Like if you saw a response, you would order like something you liked, and you're like, oh, it used this tool, and you're like, wow, like I wanted to do that. Like, can you give it?
You can make a request
like that.
You can make a request to do that, but at the end of the day, like what the agent does is a little bit unpredictable. Now, it does have a memory, right? So it can remember what tools it used in the past. Maybe you have, so right now, let's say if I'm using, I have a backup, so like there's some of these tools, what's it, I was using one tool to look at the, my availability on my calendar, but Google discontinued that API endpoint, right? So now you gotta go about it in a different way, right? You could have, what I could have done was had a backup tool in there. If this one is unavailable, you can use that one. And you could explicitly just tell it that, but it would be very conversational in how you say that. And you can't like demand that it does. It's like you can request it for sure, right? But it's still like ChatGPT. Okay, so the cool thing about the tools is that, so like, and it may or may not use the tool. If the tool doesn't apply, it won't use it, okay? And then finally is the output. So here we're going back to Slack, right? And what Slack's going to do is it's just going to post a message. And we have a couple of different options on how we do that as well, based off of the different nodes of that. So let's actually see this thing in action. We're going to do test workflow. So now it's waiting for the trigger. And I'm going to go to Slack. And so in my Slack channel, I just have a bot called N8N connector that we already authenticated. And I'm going to do N8N connector. And the first thing we're going to ask is like, are you online? And then if we come back over here, we can see that it starts to process, right? And it's also very visual too, and I like this too, especially for entry-level developers, because they can start to like after you've been developing for a while, this is what happens in your brain. But some people don't see all those connections, right? So what we can see is the Slack trigger was fired, the AI agent went to the AI model, then it came back and went to simple memory, and then it came back and it did not go to Google Calendar because it wasn't a tool that it needed to respond to this particular request. It just fired back to Slack. So if we go back to Slack, that's Slack. Okay? It says, hey, are you online? It says, it seems like you might need assistance with scheduling or managing events. How can I help you today? Would you like to add any events to your calendar? Sure, right? Now, it knows what it can do because I told it what type of agent it is. But every time I ask if you're online, it is answering my question differently. I didn't expect it to say that, right? But again, like that guy right there, I don't even know his name, Mr. Sailor right there, right? I haven't even heard his voice. Actually, I have heard his voice a few times, right? But Mr. Beardo right there, back there, right? Like, listen, I don't know what his voice sounds like. He could sound like anything. I don't know. So whatever he says is going to be unexpected, right? But he's in this room. I'm going to assume that he's a software developer adjacent, because he's here at Coke Coffee. At the very least, I know that he likes coffee.
He's a Times power user.
He's a power user.
And he uses Times. It's a similar tool.
Oh, okay. Oh, you're the guy that did the door thing? Oh yeah, I didn't see that. I didn't see that. What's that? 'Cause I thought that was cool as fuck. All right. Yeah.
He made it. I have like a simple. He made it actually scale.
Yeah, so part of what I do, so I work as a senior security engineer, so I use a ton of these platforms. So again, for the same reasons you kind of stated up front, it's the speed at which we can develop it. With a lot of our junior engineers, bringing them in because of the use of the platform, and kind of the workflows across, whether it's across region, country, that our business operates. So we move heavily into these types of platforms.
It's a cost saver, right? Is it the solution to every single problem? No. But it's a solution to a couple of them that I can think of. All right, cool. Your face is very familiar. I don't know where I know you from. I've seen your face. Not your face, his face.
First time you
No, it's not the first time I've seen you. It sounds real creepy. I'm sorry. After I said it, I started processing. I was like, this sounds creepy. But I don't know. I've seen you somewhere. You go to technically events or something? Like, dude, I've seen you somewhere. All right, cool. Whatever. You got a doppelganger out there somewhere.
Do you remember the direct show graph edits?
Yes.
For video, this reminds me of
A lot of work. All right, so let's say not to monopolize all your time. So here's an example of it actually using so somebody give me a date.
Can it be one in the past?
October 27th. It can be back 2024.
We got a sushi event later.
Mr. Sushi, all you can eat Mr. Sushi today.
Is that today?
Everyone's we're going to get sushi.
For $24.
I like you guys. You got steak on Tuesdays, sushi on Fridays. All right, so October 27th, you can say, set this date on my calendar. So I'm going to hit that. And if we go to N8N again, okay, cool. So for this particular workflow, we can see that it did the Slack trigger, it went to OpenAI, it went to simple memory, and this time it actually did fire this event because it was relevant in this particular workflow. And it didn't work. This is the opposite. This is the event on calendar. It did not put it in Slack. Test the workflow. Oh, I lost the server connection. That's what. I lost the server connection.
One of the sort of like the hurdles that I face when trying to learn these low code, no code tools with like just integrating and doing plumbing of these different APIs is that it's highly dependent on whether there's enough documentation, and it's definitely not searchable for like the deep research or deep search for what parameters you need to put in for this specific user card, and you have to figure it out. Like it's just like banging your head until the inputs work.
No Stack Overflow for this already.
Yeah, there's no Stack Overflow. That's why I hate it.
Well, that's because Stack Overflow kind of like made it not an option.
Documentation for this is actually pretty good. That's one of the reasons I'm very sensitive about that. There's a lot of different communities that are in N8N, and a lot of people share a lot of their workflows. And I validate that from YouTube and TikTok. My TikTok feed is all N8N right now. And I'm just like, I just been looking at people's workflows, because it's like, why not learn from one of these, but they want to share it? And I'm not going to pay for it. That's just not going to happen.
So how much time do you actually like spit out a card and input the parameters as opposed to watching YouTube?
Well, the thing is, YouTube is not going to give me exactly what I want. And it's probably like, if I'm trying to get something off of YouTube, it's probably 6 different videos, and they're all maybe 40 minutes long, and I'm probably going to watch 5 to 10 minutes of it, and then I'm going to take the transcript off of YouTube, drop it into ChatGPT, summarize it, and ask my question, because I have no patience. And that's generally my workflow, and actually I find it to be very useful. Hold on, let me get my back.
Have you tried using something like Manus to watch the YouTube videos for you?
I have not yet.
Too many.
Do you just download? Sometimes I just download the VTT file and then just read the video instead of watching.
I do that most days. The
But
thing is, like,
recently-
the information that you're providing me may not be the information that I want, but it may be adjacent to it.
Yeah.
Well, recently I've been using Sponsor Block and a YouTube client that allows me to speed it up to around 8x speed.
Oh, wow.
So I
Hey,
stopped.
wait, hold on, 8x? You can understand 8x?
Well, for some of the really slow talkers, yes.
Oh, who's talking about? Okay.
2x that's like perfect. 8x.
But usually it's around 3.5.
So just to reiterate, because I restarted my webhook, my Ngrok, I got to go here and go to Slack API and go down to my webhook. I'm going to go to the event subscription and change. Oh, hold on, I got to turn it on. Okay, verify, save those pages, good to go. Alright, so I can go back to canvas, and then we put a, stop it, and test the workflow again. Okay, and finally, it's just, I'm going to copy this message. That, and then, let's say set this date on my calendar. It's executing workflow, and it responds back with the as event to your calendar. So if I go to my calendar, here's the event. I didn't add a title to it, but here's the time of the event. So, why is this valuable? It doesn't matter if it's Slack. It doesn't matter if it's Google Calendar. The only thing that really matters here is the fact that you have a way to ingest data, and that's flexible and up to you. You have this AI agent that you can configure. The models are flexible. You can have whatever models you want to use that you have access to. The databases are flexible, right? I mean, honestly, if you're doing anything for production, I would go with something more on a Superbase or Postgres or something like that. And then, like, you can add as many tools as you want to empower your agent to be able to answer your question, and then the output doesn't have to be Slack. I mean, it could be, you could have a trigger that every time somebody drops something in a Google folder, that it will go grab that document, run it through whatever process you want to run through, and then output a version of that document in a different folder. right? And that could be the workflow. Yes, sir.
Do they provide a custom API interface? So like for my own platform, I don't want to write the microservice.
You
I'll
can
just,
write
like,
you can
trigger
create
it.
a node that allow you to adjust for a web load. You can
Right.
set up to do that, yeah.
So like I could just like a user could just like click a button, it would trigger a webhook to N8N and then trigger this entire process.
Yep.
Feedback.
So one of the workflows that I'm doing right now is we're building out a intelligent search chat, right? So all that's being built out in like Python and LangChain. But then what's the Python LangChain is going to call the webhooks that we set up at N8N to do certain processes that we want done.
Right.
So that way, like the time that we're doing developing, I can put the things that are user facing is going to be the actual web chat, which I'm going to put manpower to, and I got interns that are subsidized by the state of Delaware. Delaware will give you interns for up to 3 months as long as you promise to hire at least, let's say, 70% of the ones you take on. So you take on 10, you're going to have to hire 7, right? Which is not a bad deal, right? You can get away with hiring 6 or 2 to really try. But anyway, I think this is a better use of their time. And then as they start, we start onboarding them into our processes, and then like slowly start building into actually doing code. And that's pretty much the extent of the demo I'm going to go through today, but I can answer your questions. Yes.
Can we have it so that it would automatically pay for itself?
Automatically pay for itself.
Yeah, like pay for the expensive version of the Enron.
So automatic, I don't understand the question, I'm sorry.
So let's say if we wanted it so that, like let's say you have a per user subscription type thing.
Yeah.
And you want multiple users, but you, when they, let's say, create a sign up form,
Yes.
they automatically pays for the couple of per user licenses on the other platform when they pay for your service.
You could it's not like turnkey to do that, but yes, you could set something like that up, especially paying for the other license. So the way I would set that up is I would have a master license and then just bill people for usage. So for example, like a user signs up, I'm not going to create a ChatGPT API key license for them individually.
Correct. It would be a master key that would then tell it to sign up for, like, let's say.
I wouldn't even do that. What I would do is I'd have that go to my corporate account, and then at the end of every month, I would invoice people based off of their individual usage, with a premium on top of it.
All
So
right.
if it costs me 5 cents a call, I'm gonna charge them 7 to 10 cents per call, because administrative fees and I gotta eat.
Yeah.
They do provide their own platform infrastructure that's already like you would like go to their web IDE and then like drag and drop and then
You could, yeah, they do. But again, all this stuff is like nuanced and based off of your use case. There's scenarios where I might generate their own key, but generally what I would do is because for the clients that I'm building this for, they don't know how to change this stuff around. I'm gonna have to be the one to change it anyway. So I'm going to charge them the flat rate of whatever it costs me.
because the main point there is like I can abstract away all the infrastructure and then don't have to deal with it.
Yeah. So my clients. So let's say. So here's a use case, right? Let's say that number one, let's say I'm building something. The client doesn't even know I'm using it. They're using my product, which is called payme.com, right? And when you go to payme.com, you enter your email. I bill you once a month just for your existence. Okay. All right. Cool. And that's the only service you get, right? And I charge you $19.95. The point is that I may use N8N to do this processing. I may use something else in the future, right? It's not the customer should be my billing process would be agnostic to my engineering process.
Well, because not only for the customer, because I would also have to do it for myself if I want to save money.
Well, the thing is, if you yes, but these use cases are starting to blend now.
Blend out.
Blended now. Like listen, we're trying to make it's not like I can't think of a one. I mean, me personally, I can't think of a one solution fits all type scenario. If you can, please let me know.
Because as much as possible, if there's something out of the box and there's already something pre-deployed, and I can just go into WebDAV, make some automations and then use it to call it via API, that'd be great. For simple stuff, of course.
Yeah. Again, I mean, there might be something out there I don't know what it is. I don't think this is the right out the box. This is not a solution for it. Somebody might have built an add-on to that may do that. I don't know.
For example, some of the AI features that I've been using, I could just use a platform where they provide an API where I go into their own web work IDE and then just drag and drop them into AI pipelines and AI models to generate some videos or images with lip sync and everything, and then feed it back through their API to the client side. And they handle all the infrastructure. They handle the serving of my workflow, and I actually get paid if I use people use my.
Are you seeing their API key directly as a third-party vendor?
I would generate my own API key and then sort of hide it through that process, through the interfacing with the API. I would have to write my own API that interfaces with their platform.
Yeah, but the thing is, you would have to write it. Like, I don't know if it's something that already exists.
Well, at least the data pipeline for the AI is all on there.
Yeah, you set that up, yeah. But it would still have to plug into your custom stuff for your use case. Anyway, that's pretty much all I had to present today. Add me on LinkedIn. Was it still without saying touch? Yes.
I have a question. Can you give an example of a use case, like a bad use case for this that seems like a good use case and
Yes.
essentially maybe solved in the next?
Yes. So having this being directly customer facing is probably a mistake because there's going to be some scalability issues. Like NAM does have some thresholds that like it hits up against the wall. Having it part of like an overall pipeline that you're controlling the flow of traffic. So like anywhere where you're just exposing this to like raw traffic, if it gets popped overnight, it's going to crash. Having it part of your pipeline where you can set it up that has jobs, like I would set this up with a queuing system, something like Cassandra or RabbitMQ, and pulling jobs from there so you can control the workflow of how things are being processed. So to answer your question succinctly, having this directly publicly accessible is something that may scale unpredictably would be a mistake. Would you agree with that? What's my name? Will? Would you agree with that? Sorry. Oh, I'm just saying, like, I just wouldn't expose to something that's publicly accessible. I set it up with some kind of queuing system. I think the scalability.
Yeah, I think it is. So I totally would agree. I haven't done too much. So I'm going to start implementing it a little bit more. Some of the platforms that I've used, there's some built and growing things that you can use, but yeah, generally not really leveraging it as. It depends. I think like we're not really leveraging it like outside of like our customer products, things like that, but more like internal workflows or scheduling or things like that, or kind of scheduling jobs or handling kind of internal calls. So it's all kind of stuff under our control. We can monitor. We have the same scaling issues, and there's still limits. There's still event limits. There's log limits. All of that kind of as part of products that we use. Almost I think right now looking at it, it's almost verbatim kind of what I'm kind of using, just different layout, kind of different visually, but all the core components like the web hooks, the HTTP calls, the splits, and the way that you kind of iterate over results, all very, very much the same.
Yeah, I was really impressed with your Discord anyway.
Yeah, no, and I've got some other tools I can definitely show you. We do it with this one platform that they were showing them. Yeah, and it's super interesting to me just because I didn't even realize how many different products were out there. This one we just kind of been so invested in with this one company, kind of helping them usually kind of build this out as part of like this partnership that we have. But there's a lot more that come on this market, and I think specifically the AI features are a little different in N8N versus what we have kind of offered in our platform, and that's kind of what I'm most interested in. So kind of those agent aspects.
Cool. Yeah. That's pretty much it though.
What do you think? Is it good or bad for ETL?
It actually could be well. So it depends what you're trying to do with ETL, right? So like, if your ETL process has to have very predictable results, like probably wouldn't. But if you're trying to get like do the extract, transfer, load, and then pull out insights, maybe.
Enrichment.
Yeah, something like, that's the perfect way to say. I would say for enrichment. Because again, like it's not predictable, right? It's a lot of ETL that has to be exact. So, for example, one of the things that we have to do is in the product that we're building out. I can talk a little bit about it. We have a pattern that will allow us to interpolate joint movement based off of photos. So, for example, like we can take a video of you running and then extrapolate the joint movement and give you a predictability score of you injuring yourself while running based off of just video. And we have a pattern on that process, right? But the problem is that like we want to get to the point where we're doing it in real time, and we're not doing that yet. There's a huge delay. Not huge, it's like a minute, right, for us to do the processing. I would not use any of this in us setting up our real-time processing because the output of the data could vary. And also, LLMs are notoriously bad with math. So like the numbers that they give us may not be predictable as well. So it's just too many factors that we wouldn't use that. However, looking at a data set and maybe pulling out like, all right, what other demographics is this, so we can compare a particular person to based off of their height, their weight, their gait, and their walk. I would let it do that, or use it in the process to add the enrichment part. But our regular pipeline of how we do our ETL, I would not expose that to the randomness of an element, at least not yet. But who am I? I'm just an old man. I'm almost 50.
I'm an older man.
It's true.
So about my use case,
found something?
to configure a personality for my AI girlfriends. I want them to go free, set them free on Twitter and Facebook and all these social medias. If I want to have a preset JSON configuration of the personalities, how would I parse that into like anything? And how to like generate hot photos and stuff and like
Okay.
catfish as a service.
All right, catfish as a service. If it was me, this is how I would set it up. First off, I would set up a Twitter profile, right? And generate an image. A nice, cute image, right? Anytime somebody asks me, right, I'd have a trigger that my N8N process would pick up on, right? I'd have to come in, and then the first thing I have my trigger do is go out to their profile and see if I can get any of their links in social media, right? So I can build a profile. Or see if I've talked to this person before, right? So I've set up a database with some type of RAG database so I can do that, right? So now, it's the first time I've ever talked, so somebody says, hey cutie, right? I'm gonna go out and figure out have I ever talked to this person before. It's a brand new conversation. I'm gonna go out and grab anything I can on social media and build a profile. That's the first thing. So I'm gonna have, that's the other thing. You can chain agents, right? So I can build an agent that goes out and builds a profile with somebody. I can build an agent that will go out and like do different things and then plug those in as tools to my other agent, right? So it builds a profile out for the guy, right? So first conversation, you tag me, say, hey cutie, right? I just respond like, not so bad yourself, right? Start off the conversation. Then I'd have an agent that will generate, the pictures based off of like other, you can get to the point where you generate the same picture over and over. So when the dude eventually says, hey, send me a pic, I have a pic generation agent, right? Right, what's the name? That will generate that stuff. So I would build agents for every little interaction you want to have with this person. And you can keep a history of all the different things and collect all the data that you want. And this is really sick how easy
Everything
it
at
is.
scale.
Huh?
Everything at scale.
This is something
Sounds like a dating app to me.
I mean, people, listen, the guy who made the ChatGPT girlfriend was making $1 million a month at one point.
So I was thinking like I could
subscriptions.
generate an AI influencer and then have it generate like safe following.
It was just flirting back and forth with people.
As a
People paid
service.
for the VI girlfriend as a service. Like it would text you back like, hey, how you doing? How was your day? And they had a whole conversation. Like you had a virtual, safe for work conversation.
Think about it, don't you? Take 500 women that you've talked to in the past. I'm sure they share.
500? You think I've talked to 500 women?
Okay, 350. I'm sure they share some similar characteristics.
Right.
Like the physical characteristics, intellectual, social, economic, the whole bit. Sooner or later,
Looks wise or personality wise?
I think both. I think he has to look tight, chemistry. He feels though that's attractive.
Looks wise, you can just get. I don't know if you can get your Tinder swipes.
If you can't, I don't think you can export all your data. You have to have, like, it doesn't like do picture training. But I wonder if you could have, if you had like a ChatGPT like screen, looking at your screen somehow, then you could swipe. But I don't know. That's feasible.
You can if you do like a you use Selenium.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Or what was it? Sauce Labs.
Yeah, there's some browser. Yeah, I don't know if it's also that, but I saw like a demo where it's like looking. It's not like hooked up to the browser, but it's like visually looking at the browser and knowing like moving the mouse.
I wouldn't even use browser. I would use something like Sauce Labs and use the actual phone. I just set up for like they do with those robo farming joints. Like set up, that'd be funny if you could set up a virtual profile and stuff, flirt with people all day long while you work. Oh man, I got 5 dates this week. Somebody had to have done that.
I had my friend pitched me a startup idea like that, but it wasn't really. It was like being trained in AI to like help people. Like fix their Tinder profile and like hey, export all your messages. It'll tell you like, dude, what are you doing? Where you're going wrong? You have fixing these photos.
There's an app that you can add on iOS that goes in your chats called Rizzle, right? So you can, so you can. I think it's what's called. You can rizz up your and it goes right to the chat board like Giphy does.
There's no way these actually work. That's why
I don't know if they actually work,
but they're funny. Like they're funny little.
Somebody's making money off of this.
If they're
And
making,
even if it's a short hit,
that's crazy.
if you made if you made $50,000 off of having it fizzled out, you still made $50,000.
Yeah.
And it cost you nothing but a couple of weekends and some coffee.
Sure.
But we don't talk ethics, right? Like so ethically, right? This is not stuff that you should do.
It's my job.
I'm
It's one of my jobs.
I'm on record as saying it though. Ethically, I'm saying, and listening, as the elder adult in his room, this is not stuff you should do.
It's my passion.
Yeah, we're trying.
You said that with such passion, I believe it.
It's really my passion.
AI girlfriends? Just
Yeah.
for work, or you like love AI girlfriends?
I prefer AI girlfriends.
Hey, fair enough. Real
There's
women
some
are
things you're
hard.
missing out with an AI girlfriend. I'm just gonna put that out there.
You should really check out the whole realism of it.
Yeah, I
It's level of detail nowadays.
You better be quiet. What's yet?
Next time she gets smart, we're like, babe,
You
you gotta be automated.
Like, this is right. You're used to this.
Yeah, y'all haven't been to CES
No.
in Vegas? CES this year, they had a whole pavilion on, how to put this, tools you can use with your, while talking to your AI girlfriend. We'll just leave it at that.
Oh.
Wow, so they're selling like AI tools to use for your AI girlfriend?
Yes, and AI boyfriend.
Oh, they have hardware?
Oh yeah, that's exactly what I just not gonna say it. But there was a whole, but the fact that there's a pavilion.
Dude, what if you had someone using that Rizzler app for their AI girlfriend? That would be.
That's too meta. That's too meta. That's too
So you're like AI, you're like helping using the AI to help rizz up the AI.
You gotta rizz up your AI girlfriend, and that's.
Maybe the system prompt is like really hard and then really hard to get girlfriend. Like you gotta work really hard. You gotta play all the right games.
Now, if I was just had a couple weekends and for free, what I would do is I would gamify how to talk to girlfriend.
There you go.
Where the goal would be for you to actually talk to actual women.
Wait, that's a great idea. Oh my god, I just had
So what's that? So you sit there and you're giving your own input and you're talking to a girl and like, listen, you get scored, but like it's supposed to help you get better at talking to girls.
So you have like levels of women, how it's like, hey, you have to flirt this good, and like the easy flirt. We'll integrate Tony's AI girlfriends, and we'll give them levels of like, yeah, you gotta raise up. Oh my god, I just
There
had
you
a
go.
whole.
Now, the question is, how do you monetize it, right?
Yeah.
It's easy. And you
You
bring
don't
it
need
first.
to monetize anymore. Someone will buy you out. You just get the user base.
If you get a user, you still gotta show somebody a path to revenue.
That's-
You have to-
No, but I feel like revenue. What's that? I saw like this
I
some
work for a
like
record
skit,
company. It's still a thing. It's still a thing.
some skit where they were like they call it like pre-revenue.
Pre-revenue, yeah.
That's just so funny.
They say you're pretty rich.
Yeah, we're pre-revenue right now, and they're like losing millions every day. No path forward.
But a way to do that is that, like, what's that? You could have microtransactions in there to buy risk point. And the thing is, what you do is like keep
I'm
your
gonna
scale.
make this now.
You should.
This is unethical though. Like this goes against. It's like I would hate it while I'm working on it.
I don't. You can make it ethically. You're actually doing a service to help men talk to. This is the most feminist thing you could possibly do. Because in the riz, like what is true riz but charisma, right?
Yeah.
Like, and having true charisma is meaning that you are talking attractively to women in a way that they want to hear, right?
Yeah.
Instead of the bumbling that you know.
Yeah, but the gamifying of it, I feel like
The
is-
gamifying is only making them better.
Yeah.
And listen, we gamify working out.
I
You still